Salofalava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuiki. Coming up.
Fiji has about 5,000 policemen for that whole country. In Sepik, I have 155.
A governor slams PNG government for police neglect. Also,
I have actually been told, but these guys are great. We're getting support for our culture and they're actually helping our culture.
Deep-sea mining companies accused of swaying Cook Islanders, and Māori and Pacific school leavers level up. In Papua New Guinea, the governor of Sepik says the recent gang rape and killings in the province stemmed from unresolved issues going back 20 years. Alan Bird says the state needs to intervene and justice needs to be meted out by a third party. Our PNG correspondent Scott Whitey reports.
Alan Bird says there's no justice done in a lot of cases, and young people then seek revenge years later.
What's been happening in a lot of these places is there's a big gathering and then they do compensation and, they pay some money or kill some pigs or whatever, and everyone says, everything's fine. But there's a little kid who might be 7 years old at the time and his father got murdered or his mother was raped and murdered or whatever the crime was. 20 years later, that's the young person that is taking the revenge.
Mr. Bird says East Sepik province has been neglected when it comes to policing. He says he's had 3 provincial police commanders in his time, and each one has told him they didn't have enough manpower. Alan Bird says his own troops have been deployed to the highlands over a period of 20 years, but there's been no significant improvements.
My province is bigger than Fiji as a country. The population in my part of the world is also, I think, bigger than Fiji. Fiji has about 5,000 policemen for that whole country. In Sepik, I have 155. Now, that declined from, 300 maybe 20 years ago.
Mr. Bird says towards the end of last year, the police commissioner gave approval to recruit additional police reserves. He said they should have another 80 regular policemen by the end of the year.
Deep-sea mining companies in the Cook Islands are being accused of using charity to sway people's opinions over the controversial practice, while mining companies claim it's no different from other businesses sponsoring events. Caleb Fotheringham reports.
June Hosking, president of environmental group Te Pukerea Society, is claiming deep-sea mining companies in the Cook Islands are using philanthropy to change the public's perception.
They have basically infiltrated every part of society.
Deep-sea mining in the Cook Islands hasn't started yet. The country is still exploring the possibility, with 3 mining companies in their 4th year of exploration. Public sentiment has heated up too, with a protest last year while the Underwater Minerals Conference was being hosted. One of the companies, CIC Ocean Research, has set up a trust to support various community projects in the country.
They have been the regular sponsors for the Te Mai Vanui, which is our biggest annual Constitution celebration, week-long arts festival type thing, very popular with tourists. So they have sponsored that, I think, for at least the last 2 years, if not more. The big sports events, they're all on that, sponsoring.
She says staunch anti-deep-sea mining community members have been swayed by the company.
I have actually been told, but these guys are great. We're getting support for our culture and they're actually helping our culture. People are completely suckered in by it. It's clever and it's obviously been planned for quite some time.
But CIC doesn't see it like that.
If you don't do anything, you get accused. And if you do something, you still get accused.
That's Shona Lynch, the country manager for CIC.
We have people coming knocking at our door every day, seeking for support. And one of the things that CIC as a company had promised was that we will help where we can.
Ms. Lynch says it's no different to other private companies like Vodafone Cook Islands sponsoring various events.
To say that we're trying to influence our people, no. I don't think that's a correct statement. From CIC's point of view anyway. Remember, we're Cook Islanders too. We're part of society. And if there's an area that people will come and ask for help, we will try to help.
Cultural leader Michael Tavioni is one of the people who has received sponsorship from CIC, including for distribution of his book to several schools in Rarotonga and Atutaki. However, Mr. Tavioni says he's not being influenced by anybody.
I would love to be bribed. I need money to make my wānanga bigger and my gallery bigger and a workshop for kids so I can teach my culture.
Mr. Tavioni says everybody thinks he's a big promoter of deep-sea mining, but this is not the case, and that he just wants to have a discussion.
When I write about deep-sea mining and the benefits, I'm accused of being bribed. But the discussion is healthy, isn't it?
An immigration expert thinks New Zealand's Green Party's petition for the government to extend visa-free travel to visitors from Pacific Island nations is not a good idea, while the Prime Minister says it's not a priority. It's also been a call from Pacific leaders in recent years, including from Fiji, Samoa and Tonga. Caleb Fotheringham has more.
About 60 countries are currently able to access New Zealand without a visa, but not one is a Pacific Island nation. Fijian lawyer Lavi Roikuikua, practicing in the Cook Islands and Fiji, says it's surprising that Pacific Island nations are not on the list.
I think this is something that's been a long time waiting for Pacific Islanders, especially with the relationships that the Pacific Island countries, the smaller Pacific Island countries, have with Australia and New Zealand.
But immigration licence advisor June Ranson thinks the risk of overstayers is too big.
I don't think it's a good idea at all.
She says there's strong reasons for visitors from Pacific nations not to leave.
There is not a strong enough reason for these people to return home. What I believe should happen is that New Zealand should give stronger support to the Pacific Islands and to build up their infrastructure, to give the work opportunities for the people over there.
Ms. Roikuikua agrees that overstaying is a concern like any other country, but there are other options rather than a blanket no for visa-free travel for Pacific Islanders.
It's a legitimate concern, but there are other ways in which New Zealand, for instance, is able to cater for those concerns in terms of strict rules, in terms of the inbound visitors that come into the country.
However, Ms. Ranson says New Zealand can't afford a system that ensures Pacific visitors don't overstay.
It all comes down to cost, and New Zealand's not in a very financial position. I mean, yes, that'd be a wonderful idea, but it comes down to cost, and we just are not in that position to be able to finance that currently. Let's look at it in a few years' time.
Pacific leaders, including from Fiji, Samoa and Tonga, have been calling for visa-free travel for some time. New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon says visa-free travel for visitors from Pacific Island nations is not a priority.
It's something that we continue to consider, but for right now it's not a priority for us in light of the other priorities that we need to focus the system on and focus Immigration New Zealand on.
While Immigration Minister Erica Stanford won't say if Pacific visa-free travel is being considered.
Look, there are more than 120 countries that are not visa waiver. It's not a given. Most countries don't have that status, and it's something that we look at on a case-by-case basis.
The Greens Pacific People's spokesperson Tiano Tuiono says at the moment Aotearoa's closest neighbours are unable to easily visit.
Our closest relatives and neighbours are unable to do so. It's incredibly frustrating for many of us who have those connections across the Pacific, whose relatives want to come over and visit and spend time with us. And so it's important that we remove those barriers.
He says with geopolitical tensions rising, it's important to allow visa-free access from the region. Mr. Tuiono says there is embedded racism in the system that favours people from European countries.
If you look at what's happening in the Pacific, the geopolitical tensions that's playing out, we gain a lot of our mana, if I can put it that way, on the international stage by making sure that we have those strong relationships. Doing this makes sure that we have those strong relationships.
He says New Zealand is a Pacific nation and should be nurturing its relationships with its Pacific neighbours.
New Zealand's AUT University recently celebrated 206 school leavers who completed the university's preparation program, UniPrep. Now in its 11th year, the program is designed to help Māori, Pacific and other high school leavers in their transition to becoming university students, providing not only academic skills but takes into account their cultural and social needs. To date, UniPrep has supported more than 2,900 school leavers. I spoke with AUT's Pro Vice-Chancellor for Pacific, Fa'alongo Yakopa Matabo, and began by asking her what makes the program so successful.
My belief in the program is that it's focused on transition, and it's a program that offers students an experience of university life. It's holistic in its design and it's culturally affirming, grounded upon AUT's principles of Te Aronoi, which is how we affirm our commitment to Te Tiriti. So it's a culturally inclusive program. It's grounded in university experience, and it offers an opportunity for students to really begin their journey in a whānau-centric approach.
So you've just mentioned this is a transitional program, but in terms of retention, do all uni prep graduates go on to complete their tertiary education?
That's a really good question, and that's one that I think a lot of universities grapple with, in terms of better supporting students through their undergraduate qualification. So through uni prep, there is a strong focus on core academic skills, but it's also realising that there are other more holistic challenges, I guess, that come with academic study. But yes, our students do go through into undergraduate programs and go on to pursue their qualifications,
When you say holistic challenges, can you give an example?
Yeah, holistic challenges. Well, one thing that's quite unique with AUT is that we have quite a high percentage of our student population who are also working, more than 10 to 20 hours a week as well as doing studies. So, the whole experience of a learning journey and a successful academic journey really is about how, as an institution, we support our students also giving the sort of life, study, work balance, family balance, and all of the other cultural commitments that are important to our students. So, I like to think of that from a strength-based position. So also realising that our students bring in a very strong sense of where they want to go, also knowing that the roles that they have will potentially go on to serve their communities, So, every student has their own set of unique goals and aspirations too. So that's something that's really important to us, particularly through the UniPrep program, is understanding where our students want to lead in their academic journey as well. So really it's about setting up a strong foundation right at the beginning and then being able to support them through, to completion.
This program honours the students' cultural backgrounds and experiences.
Yeah.
So why should the rest of the country care about this program when there's a growing argument that people should be judged on merit rather than their cultural backgrounds?
I mean, that's a really fair question. And so AUT as a university of opportunity is about nurturing experiences for students to actually engage in academic success. So it isn't necessarily, just about focusing on culture. It is also about ensuring a strong academic foundation, for future academic success. So those are key elements within the UniPrep program that actually offer students sort of a low-risk environment to experience academic success. And what I mean by that is that usually when you transition into university, it's full-time, you've got 4 papers in one semester. The beauty of UniPrep is that you only focus on one paper, and there is a whole cohort sense of design and experience. So smaller groups of students are clustered together with a higher teaching ratio to actually support students more one-to-one. So it really is tailored around that gap between high school to university level.
What are your thoughts then on the proposed amendments targeting diversity and equity?
I think every academic in every university would feel, a sense of nervousness around certain initiatives that have actually been long-standing in education and possible, threats that might seem to diminish those opportunities. But I think collectively there is still a strong commitment across, not just AUT, but I'd like to imagine all our universities, for the value of first honouring tangata whenua, mana whenua in the context of our universities, and the uniqueness that is as a New Zealand nation, in Aotearoa New Zealand, realising that is such a unique part of who we are as a people and a unique part of our history. And that also extends out towards Te Moana Nui a Kiwa and the way we think about the uniqueness of our position in the Pacific.
And last question for you, Whaalonga. What message do you have for future school leavers who are maybe on the fence about university studies?
I love that question. It's a great question. I'd say you belong in a university. Come on through. I would say come and get to know the offerings that we have in our programs. We are growing as a university. We recruit Pacific and Māori academics. There is integration of mataranga Māori in research practice and in curriculum. And I think the richness of what we offer as a university will also speak to the future generations of Aotearoa New Zealand. So it's an exciting space to be in. Despite fiscal limitations and shifts in policy, I think the aims and aspirations of transformation long outweigh the short length that governments might have.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.